Hey guys, Tyler here. The question of whether Starfleet is a military organization in Star Trek has been the subject of fan debate for decades. Starfleet's stated primary goals of exploration and scientific research are frequently contrasted with its role as the Federation's first line of defense, and characters throughout the franchise comment on Starfleet ships' powerful armaments and parallels between Starfleet officers and soldiers. And these parallels are pretty obvious. Officers must follow orders and respect the chain of command, can be court-martialed for their actions, etc. Their rank structure was even specifically modeled after that of the US Navy. But some of the major counter-arguments to this critique, that Starfleet is a military, include that Starship's weapons are primarily defensive, and that officers are more like diplomats, not soldiers. So, just as the title of Strange New Worlds Season 3 Episode 7 asks, what is Starfleet? Is it just an exploratory agency that's well-armed, or is it the military arm of a neo-colonial empire? In this video, I'll attempt to answer these questions and more. Let's get started. Before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video, the Star Trek The Next Generation themed rock band, the Beverly Crushers. A San Francisco-based band made up of lifelong musicians and Trek superfans, the Beverly Crushers perform songs from the perspective of different TNG characters, and these songs naturally contain lots of Easter eggs. For instance, Holographic Fantasy explores the wish fulfillment of, well, holodeck fantasies. Warp Speed features Geordi singing a love song to the ship as his only successful long-term relationship. Just a Pretty Face explores Troy feeling sidelined and demanding more agency, and Chain of Command sees Picard express frustration about being a people manager. And appropriate for this video, The Academy addresses the issue of Starfleet as a military organization. The Beverly Crushers have released 2 full-length albums, 2020's Sick Bay and their new album Enterprise, both digitally and on vinyl. You can listen to their songs on Spotify as well as support them on Bandcamp, where in addition to their records you can buy t-shirts and other apparel, autographed posters, and more. They were kind enough to send a copy of Enterprise for me to add to my personal collection, and they've also given me a special discount code for my audience, you guys, that you can redeem at checkout on Bandcamp. Just visit the link in the description and use my code ORANGE to get 10% off anything on their Bandcamp page. They also periodically play live shows around San Francisco. Their next one is October 4th, where they also sell some of their original merch. Big thanks to the Beverly Crushers for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to it. When it comes to the question of what a fictional organization like Starfleet is intended to be, there are 2 major ways to approach such a topic. One is examining the real-world implications of how Starfleet is portrayed on screen, and the other is investigating the intent of the creatives behind the franchise. Both approaches are important in my opinion. As someone who frequently makes content about the political allegories in Star Trek, obviously the former has major cultural repercussions. But I also put a lot more stock in the latter than lots of other people. Even though author's intent, so to speak, is often difficult to ascertain, I still think it's a necessary part of the conversation. Anyway, while Gene Roddenberry, especially during the 1980s, famously took issue with the Trek film franchise's increasingly militaristic depiction of Starfleet, he's the one who invented the thing and modeled it after the Navy in the first place. A veteran of the US Air Force in World War II, Roddenberry said in a 1973 interview that he'd always been fascinated by the Navy, and his right-hand man on the original series, Robert H. Justman, who helped flesh out the Starfleet concept, also served in the Navy. Much of the military-like structure of Starfleet was introduced to audiences in TOS episodes like Court Martial, and director Nicholas Meyer left a lasting aesthetic influence on Starfleet with films like The Wrath of Khan and The Undiscovered Country. Meyer's contributions are still somewhat controversial even to this day, mind you, and Roddenberry used much of the Next Generation's first 2 seasons to try and steer his 24th century Starfleet back towards scientific exploration first. But Starfleet in any century combining these 2 missions, science and defense, actually makes it more compelling to a lot of viewers, including myself. A while back, I made a video about Captain Edward Jellicoe, first introduced in the TNG 2-parter chain of command. If you haven't watched that video yet, please go check it out after you watched this. It was a 6-way collab with a bunch of other Star Trek YouTubers, so it's chock full of interesting commentary, if I do say so myself. In that video, I challenged the merits and justifications of a lot of Jellicoe's actions on various grounds, including that the shakeup Jellicoe demanded from the Enterprise crew was too rapid, even given the parameters of the ship's negotiations with the Cardassians. But I also said that Starfleet is not a military, a statement I've probably made on several occasions. The reason I say it's not a military is because on paper it's not. The Federation doesn't have a standing army, and Starfleet's charter is primarily about exploration. But in practice, yes, obviously Starfleet acts like a military. It has, like I said, a military-like rank structure, protocols, and it's who the Federation calls upon when it's at war. You could say that's a distinction without a difference, but I think that Starfleet straddling the line on this matter is actually one of the things that makes Star Trek so interesting as a setting. Are the Federation's humans in Star Trek, especially Starfleet officers, genuine altruists who are the philosophical descendants of NASA astronauts, as Nichelle Nichols put it, or are they Kool-Aid drinking colonizers who help subsume foreign cultures under the occupation of a reactionary authoritarian state? These are questions that the franchise has grappled with for generations, and I think the franchise continuing not to provide an easy answer is actually smarter sci-fi writing than blatantly stating yes or no. And as I mentioned earlier, these questions are posed in the Strange New Worlds Season 3 episode, What is Starfleet?, to the varying satisfaction of fans. I'm not going to go into a review of the episode itself, as I'd rather save that for a Strange New Worlds retrospective, though some of the things I'm about to say could be considered kind of spoilery, maybe light spoilery, so continue watching at your own risk. In a nutshell, the sort of nebulous way the episode dances around this topic is emblematic of a lot of criticisms people have had of this season and the show in general. And in a time when it's more important than ever to question our institutions, Strange New Worlds playing it safe with lots of its themes can feel frustrating. Between this, Discovery's movement away from critiques of Imperial expansion after Season 1, Picard's fumbling of the Romulan refugee plotline, and more, Lower Decks keeps consistently coming out as the strongest of the Kurtzman-era Star Trek shows with how it handles its political allegories. Some people have said I've become a little obsessed with steering conversations towards how underrated I feel Lower Decks is, but guess what? I'm gonna keep doing it. The show has earned more of a cult following over the years, but there are still lots of people who haven't watched it or don't appreciate how masterfully it handles the source material. I made a 2-hour video about what Lower Decks does right and wrong, so yeah, this is kind of important to me. One of the biggest strengths of Lower Decks, in my opinion, is its critique of institutions. This is something Discovery, Picard, and Strange New Worlds started to do earlier in their runs, but eventually navigated closer to the political center, much like candidates for president do after they're done appealing to their respective bases during the primary. Well, except for Donald Trump. He just says whatever the f*** he wants.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
But Lower Decks resisted that temptation, in part because I feel it likely had the least amount of studio interference. It stayed the most unapologetically leftist out of all the new Star Treks, although the involvement of Section 31 in the series' penultimate episode left me a bit concerned. But consistently, Lower Decks has not only engaged in thoughtful commentary about hierarchies and workplace democracy, but Beckett Mariner's remarks about how Starfleet is good at exploring, bad at maintaining, are some of the most brilliant, poignant observations a character has made in the franchise. Seriously. The realization that the inhabitants of Beta 3 have resorted to worshipping their computer overlord Landru after the events of the original series episode, The Return of the Archons, prompts Captain Carol Freeman to propose Project Swingby, under which Starfleet would check on planets and cultures that have been neglected by the Federation for some time. And in the episode Trusted Sources, a reporter visiting the Cerritos sees Freeman help uncover a brain presence on the planet Brekka, whose inhabitants we last saw getting a stern talking to by Picard in the TNG episode Symbiosis. The episode The Inner Fight even sheds light on Mariner's reasons for self-sabotage throughout the series. her grievance over the death of her Academy friend Sito Jaxa, and survivor's guilt following the Dominion War. There is a sentiment that modern Trek is overdoing it with character development through past trauma, a critique I can understand, but Mariner's traumas feel more visceral in a way because they strike at the heart of what Starfleet and the Federation are even supposed to be about. Dialogue about honoring those who gave their lives for Starfleet can kind of come off to some as having respect the troops energy, but an organization like Starfleet being more than just a military is part of the franchise's utopian appeal. So, I'll say it again. What is Starfleet? Well, it's a lot of things. Yes, it can be a second home, a second family, a second chance for broken people, and that's not necessarily a negative thing. Framing it as the answer to a question about whether the Federation is a colonial empire is not the best look for a show owned by Paramount in 2025, but forget about Strange New Worlds for a second. Good Star Trek shows that while Starfleet officers might be put in awkward positions regarding the Federation's expansion, the best crews are able to navigate this space in a way that best fits the situation, whether it be a TNG episode where a Badmiral gets their comeuppance, a DS9 episode that intelligently deconstructs Roddenberry's utopian vision, the heroic actions of Kirk's crew in the Kelvin timeline films, or a modern Trek episode where officers refuse to follow unethical orders. Good Trek tackles these themes in a way that's challenging both in-universe and out. Essentially, Starfleet is a military when it needs to be, and it also sometimes fulfills the role of a police force. But when it doesn't need to be either of those things, it focuses on the other things that it excels at. Such an arrangement would undoubtedly prove dystopian in real life, but as I've discussed on this channel before, Star Trek humans being more socially evolved than we are is likely key in all of this working. And the fact that this topic is also still debated in-universe is honestly a strength of the franchise, not a weakness. I don't think episodes that show what the galaxy would be like without the Federation's stability should just be regarded as propaganda about how necessary imperialism is, but a glimpse at what our future could be like if we didn't embrace a humanitarian project like what the Federation is supposed to be. There is something to be said about the Federation being at least a soft expansionist human empire and doing shady things to counter neighboring powers, but when characters call this out, there's often justice in a way that's more hopeful and optimistic than the real world. Cultures that join the Federation take on a risk by doing so, with parallels to cultural assimilation by real-world historical empires not entirely unwarranted. But Federation members can also massively benefit from shared technologies, infusion of other cultures, and common defense. In many ways, it's more like a trade alliance than an imperial state, so the Federation's diversity serves it well, and colonizing barren planets and unclaimed star systems, while it can cause political tensions, is not inherently the same as occupying and settling territory inhabited by Aboriginal people with land and an identity to lose. That said, aspects of the Federation's foreign policy, like allying themselves with dilithium-rich worlds near the Klingon border, or how they handle the Maquis, are still not above critique. The Federation frequently acts like America during the Cold War in TOS, Voyager tests the limits of the Prime Directive, Into Darkness and Beyond tackle issues like the military-industrial complex and imperial expansion, and DS9 in modern Trek, when it wants to comment on authoritarian overreach and imperial decline. Modern live-action Trek falling into the trap of not questioning authority enough is a serious issue, one that some worry might kill the franchise. But the fact that we've gotten as much thoughtful commentary as we have after Enterprise's detour into war on terror politics is a testament to the fact that things can bounce back. The ramifications of Paramount's purchase by Skydance remain to be seen, but even if everything goes to shit, Star Trek still has a strong history of showing people doing the right things for the right reasons.
Captain, you do have the might to force the crystals from us, of course. But we won't.
And when that's not enough, the best Trek doesn't just pay lip service to the Federation's ideals, but it shows characters trying to improve their institutions. Let's hope we have an opportunity to do the same. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description, or become a YouTube member by clicking the join button on my channel page. By becoming a patron and member, you get access to awesome perks like behind the scenes photos and videos, patron and member only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation. All are appreciated. Links to my PayPal as well as my social media and merch store are in the description too. Also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, OrangeRiver Plus, where I've uploaded the VODs of lots of my gaming streams, with more on the way. And in addition to some other goofy one-offs and extra behind-the-scenes content, I've officially made it my second streaming platform, so be sure to subscribe there too so you don't miss any new content. And big thanks once again to the Beverly Crushers for sponsoring today's video. Use my code ORANGE to get 10% off all items on their Bandcamp page. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.
Hey you! Yes, you! Sitting there, cuddling your 7 of 9 body pillow! Listen up! It's me again, the ghost of Dr. Asukaza, emerging one last time from reptilian hell to deliver an extremely important message! All 3 issues of Star Trek Endurance are now available as an omnibus! If you don't know what the word omnibus means, don't worry, Erica didn't either. All you need to know is if you sign up for $2 or more at patreon.com/OrangeRiver and click on the pinned post, you can read all 3 issues of Endurance as a single webcomic. It's that simple. And if you're watching this in the future and that post is no longer pinned, just search Star Trek Endurance, and if you can read, you'll have no trouble finding it. On the other hand, if you're a YouTube member, just scroll on Orange River's community tab, and unless you have the attention span of an Adosian suckerfish, you'll see the link there too. Okay, back to reptilian hell for good now.
Do you like merchandise? If so, head on over to the new and improved Orange River merch store. That's right, Orange River is now officially on Spreadshop. I've got a bunch of awesome new designs, including All the Way Down,
All the Way,
Vape God, Tally, aka Best Girl,
it was totally worth it.
and what is perhaps my greatest design yet,
I love being married to my husband.
Plus, I've got some of my classic designs like Orange River Arrowhead, N7, Metroid, Mycelial Network,
The mycelial network is like
Mycelial Network, and more. And there are even some new products like Orange River hats. That's right, Orange River hats now exist. Visit the link in the description to get discounts and other special deals on items from my store.